Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown. The three, steps back, crossover, puts up a three. Rebound James. Second. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Cleveland! This is for you!
Good evening, Cavs fans. Welcome to another edition of the Block the Shot to Stop, a podcast brought to you by the Blue Wire Podcast Network. Sorry, I'm struggling there. Here with the whole crew, Tim Daniel, Skylar Webker. I am Kevin Lynch to talk about the Cavs' 133-122 defeat to the Detroit Pistons. Broke their three-game winning streak. Little bit of a bummer of a game because Detroit kind of controlled a large portion of the game. Cavs made a really good run in the fourth quarter to close it to as close as two, I believe. A lot of that led by Donovan Mitchell. And then, like so often happens, you exert so much energy to get back in the game. Detroit makes a couple of plays and stretches it back out, and they end up taking the double-digit loss. So, Skylar, Tim, Skylar, I'll start with you. Actually, I'll pick the first segment, then I'll start with you, Skylar. I want to talk about the people on the court that wanted to be talked about the most tonight, and that is the three referees for this game. And we'll get in plenty of the game, and the refs are not the reason the Cavs lost. The refs are the reason this game was really hard to watch. The average NBA game I looked up has an average of right around 40 free throws a game, right? Tonight's game had 73. Almost double the amounts of free throws in a regular game as in a regular game. Was just constant start and stop, hard to get in, any kind of rhythm. Lots of, everyone complaining, really. I think because they were just so all over the place with everything. So, Skylar, am I crazy? Is that the story of the game tonight, or is there something else?
Bro, I thought this was a Tony Brothers crew. I mean, gee, Christmas
and hockey.
It was unbearable to watch. Just like you said, constant start and stop, constant whistles, couldn't get any rhythm at all, just because it's like every other play was a whistle. And the person that I saw that affect the most was DeAndre Hunter. That seemed to throw him for the most loop tonight. But that, like you led with it, it was like this officiating crew, they wanted to be the stars tonight.
Tim, what do you think?
I really like Skylar's DeAndre Hunter point. I was going to make the same point, but I was going to try to echo it off of last night, where I almost wonder if how he was officiated last night played into how he played tonight, because he had this two flagrant foul. Well, what they call it? It was flagrant one, but that kind of maybe got into the way of how he played tonight. Wondering how he was being officiated, on top of how the game was officiated overall tonight. So, I certainly felt like it was a ref show, and we always love what ref shows, right? I mean, if we really wanted ref shows, we would just change the channel and watch March Madness. So,
oh gosh, yeah, and I mean, part of the story for that, maybe it's why I'm frustrated, is Detroit shot free throws better than the Cavs, which has too often been a theme, especially lately.
Yeah.
So maybe that leads into my frustration, but you want the guys to play. You just want to call the things you have to call, right? I mean, like, call the things you have to call and let everything else go and let the players decide the game. I'm not saying they didn't, but like, when it's that much start and stop, I mean, this game tonight took over 2.5 hours, where most NBA games run just over 2 hours. They literally added on almost a half hour to the game in real time, just with all the calls. I mean, I also looked up, these two teams combined for committing 39 fouls a game. They called 56 tonight. And to me, nothing unusual was happening in this game compared to any other Cavs game you watch. Like, it wasn't, I didn't think the game was particularly physical or anything like that. So I don't know. I mean, I hate to talk about the refs. We don't talk about them much here. But
it takes a lot for us to really get into the officials.
Yeah. And I guess while we're on that subject, we might as well shift to that free throw shooting. And Tim, I'll point to you. What is going on with this team? I mean, they shot 76% tonight. It wasn't terrible. And 76% is a good percent, but it seems like every game the other team either makes more free throws, shoots a higher percentage, or both. I mean, is there something going on with this team that, like, free throws are a problem?
Are we talking Kenny Atkinson or John Calipari here today, folks? All right, I got 2 March Madness jokes out. I won't make one another this episode. But I don't know, man. It's certainly kind of mind-boggling. Yeah, like tonight, 76% as a team is good. But it's when they're missing them is what's really, I think, frustrating to me. So if you look at tonight, they're making this run and Mitchell gets to the line where he's having this unbelievable fourth quarter and he misses that one, the front end of the two-shotter. He was 11-13. You can't really complain about it, but when he had those 2 misses, really kind of sucked.
Yep, they're both at the end of the game there. Yep.
Yeah, and then at that same point, you're talking about the more like Darius Garland. I know we're going to get into him later, but that's where you want Darius Garland. This ability to be physical, attack the paint, force contact. Detroit didn't have Cade Cunningham tonight. Cade Cunningham has become really good. He's not Shea levels of forcing contact by any means, but he has become really good at being, finding ways to be smart, intelligently physical to get to the line. And I think that's the next step for Darius Garland. I think that's where you really need him. Like 2 shots from your point guard, who's like a big attacking the paint kind of point guard. 2 free throw shots. Like, no, you cannot have that.
Yeah. Bad fourth quarter for Garland. Well, bad in the sense all game that you're right. He did not attack the basket. 0 for 4 in the fourth quarter. I know a lot of people are calling for him to be in the race for clutch player of the year. Unfortunately, tonight was not one of those nights for
I literally said it last night. So,
but Skylar, let's get sunny. Let's get a little bit more positive. Let's talk about Donovan Mitchell. Like what? I mean, this is Donovan's second excellent game in a row after, quite a cold stretch. I mean, is there anything Donovan's doing different, or is he just in a better rhythm? Like, what do you think?
I think it's just feeling better. I think maybe that groin issue with that, it kind of lingered a little too much and maybe came back sooner than he should have. But I was actually surprised that he played tonight with the sense of he's hit the minimum for postseason awards last night. So I think Tim and I were talking about it last night. I was like, well, who will they sit tonight? Just as rest, like we're here at the end. We're the number 1 seeds all but locked up. But from Donovan's point, I mean, he's got back in rhythm is what it feels like. Like he himself is feeling better, distributing better, shooting better, especially shooting from 3 better. I mean, not too much tonight, 3 of 8, but I mean, he's getting
that's still really good. I mean,
he's getting 8 shots up. He wasn't even getting 8 shots up. He would be 0 for 6 and then call it at that. So I think he's just getting his confidence back and knows that we're in this kind of dead heat at the end to lock up the number 1 spot so that, because Boston's creeping in. They're right on our heels. They'll be 4 games behind now if they win tomorrow.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. The other thing I see from Donovan, Tim, I don't know if you noticed this, the last couple of games, he's gone to the basket much more aggressively. Yes. I felt like during his cold stretch, he was settling for primarily jump shots, primarily threes. And he never tried to get himself in rhythm by going to the basket, getting free throws, getting easier shots. It seems like he's definitely made a point to do that the last couple of games.
Yeah. That whole thing I just said about Garland and what he needs to do more of, Mitchell's doing. But the best way possible. And I think that's really his best game. You see Nate here in the chat talks about it. Donovan plus 5 out spacing equals monster fourth quarter. He goes on to say bench Jared Allen. I'm not at that point by any means. I know Jared wasn't great tonight, but he was incredible last night.
Yeah.
So I'm going to kind of roll with that. But I think that with Donovan's ability Donovan's a 3-level scorer, and I really appreciate that he's leaning more into levels 1 and 2 to open up level 3, where, like you said, it was kind of 3 and then whatever happens with 2 and 1. So I'm really happy with that. I think that for him, he's kind of finding himself at the right time again, right? We're getting to the home stretch of the regular season. Like Skylar says, now a 4.5 game difference between us and Boston, depending how Boston plays against San Antonio tomorrow. And then how we play against Cleveland on Sunday. But I really like this. I really like what we saw from him tonight. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, since you brought it up, Tim, Skylar, Jared Allen didn't play after the 7-minute mark of the third quarter. And as you said, Tim, coming off of one of his better games of the year, 29-15 last night, it was phenomenal. I don't think of Detroit as a team that's a particularly bad matchup for him, like maybe Boston or one or two other teams are. What do you think the reasoning was behind like Jared just, not playing hardly at all in the second half?
I think it's just second night of a back-to-back this deep into the season against a team that's really physical in the Pistons. Give guys breaks when they can. I mean, don't try to force, and he's playing through a hand injury. So don't try to force something, make anything worse than what you need to. I think it, like Tim said, I feel like this is a win or a loss that I'm not too upset about, in the sense of, it is what it is. You'd love to win it just to get the magic number a little lower, because it could have been down to like 3 after tomorrow. But all that to say, like, he's our Iron Man this year. He's put every game in. We're at 9 games left, 8 games left in the season. So I think I'm just going to chalk it up to attrition like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think he is a very good player that you want him in the lineup the vast majority of the time, and there's a couple of times that he has bad matchups, right? Yeah. I don't know that tonight was one of them. Like you said, Skylar, it could have been rest, it could have been the injury, just want to get him out. So I don't know really what to do with that. I guess we'll see if it becomes more of a trend, because that really hadn't happened lately. But with Jared being benched, we saw Dean Wade at the 5 more than we have maybe all season. What did you think about that? It's something we've called for a little bit here, like see a 4-5 lineup of Hunter and Wade together, just in case you need it in the playoffs. They actually did it quite a bit tonight, particularly Wade playing the 5. Like, what did you think of that, Tim?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I think it's just another wrinkle that Kenny Atkinson can throw. We know Dean has the ability to shoot threes, so you kind of can bring that in as well. We know how good he is a defender. So I think just having that additional wrinkle of another lineup you can throw out there, especially at this point, like you said, like they're either going to be 1 or 2 in the East. Find out what else you have as you try to figure out who are going to be the guys you're going to rely on the most in the postseason. And we all know who, like I said, we know who he is as a defensive player. The fact that we can see him do this a little more, have him out there with this situation, I liked it. I thought it was a really good idea. Jalen Duren was good tonight. Just chalk it up to him, give him credit. And
I thought Wade played Duren tougher than Allen or Mobley did, to be honest.
I agree. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. What about you, Scott? Because this is something you and I talked about on a recent pod, about like seeing Wade at the 5 a little bit more. What did you think now that we actually saw it?
I think that was kind of a key piece to that fourth quarter storming, because it was Craig Porter in there who really gave a great spark, played real well in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
Dean Wade out there. I mean, Dean Wade caught a body in Dennis Schroeder there and that dunk in the fourth quarter. I mean, that was probably the best dunk from the Cav this year.
Yeah.
Well, our reaction is definitely stereotypical, because he does not look like the guy who will do that. But I always love when it happens.
Yes. And as we're talking about individual performances, like, a lot of guys struggled tonight, if we're being honest. Mobley, this is as much as he's struggled in a while. Okoro, after a couple of really good games, I thought wasn't quite as good tonight. He was part of the problem from the free throw line. But I did want to focus on, and Skylar just said it, one guy that I thought was phenomenal tonight was Craig Porter Jr. I mean, this guy, we've teased it a lot that we really could see him as a rotation guy as soon as next year, or if given the chance this year. They're just too deep this year, but like, he was phenomenal. He's all over the place. And I think Kenny brought him in just as for his defense, right? Because he brought him in and immediately put him on Schroeder to try and disrupt Detroit offensively. And then he ended up turning in a great all-around game, like 9 points on 3 of 5 shooting, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, all in 20 minutes played. I mean, Tim, was Craig Porter the player of the game for the Cavs tonight?
I think he has a case, man, other than Mitchell. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's especially nice, too, because it's the second night in a row that they rested Ty Jerome to kind of get him kind of back. So, and then there's no Max Strus tonight. So it's like you're kind of looking at additional wing shooting. Or perimeter shooting, I meant to say, my apologies. And he kind of provides that little spark for you. I was really, really blown away by his game tonight, man. It seems like we just kind of had that conversation about Dean Wade. Just these guys who are fighting to say, like, you're going to need me in a playoff series. I don't think Craig Porter Jr. is going to make the rotation by any means. But I appreciate that he's putting his name in the hat and saying, like, you're going to have a hard time not putting me in.
Yeah, I completely agree. And kind of as far as Porter goes, like tonight, really all game, especially in the second half, this is the first time in a long time Kenny went away from his standard rotations, right?
Yeah.
Like part of that was taking Allen out of the game, and I think that kind of threw off some of the rotations. But you saw, Garland and Mitchell started the fourth quarter together. I can't remember the last time those two started a fourth quarter together. Usually one of them sits the last few minutes of the third and the first 3 minutes of the fourth and then comes in for the other. I thought it was interesting that I don't know if it was he really wanted this game for some reason, or it was more of experimenting for different lineups for the playoffs, but like he's been so regimented about his rotation. Like Skylar, is there any reason that he, for the first time in what feels like forever, like went away from the regular rotation?
Did you watch Frozen today or something?
Why?
You said for the first time in forever.
Oh, Disney guy. All right, you can go back to March Madness jokes if you like.
No, I mean, I think it's just, I think Kenny's thinking like us. Like this game probably means more to the Pistons than it means to us.
Yes.
We're pretty much locked up. They're still fighting for positioning. And so probably taking that opportunity to learn what you got, see what you got. Try your different rotations, try, different things in clutch crunch time moments. Trial by fire. The only way you're going to get that experience is by doing it. And why not do it in a low stakes manner like tonight versus, round one or round two of a playoff?
Yeah. And I will, I guess, maybe minor correction what you said. I thought this game mattered to the Cavs because you really want to get that one seed locked up. And now you're getting to the point where it's just getting like not totally crazy that they could let this slip away. So like, assuming if Boston wins tomorrow night, it'll be down to 4. The Cavs would have to go 5-3 to guarantee themselves the first seed those last 8 games. Now, if Boston, drops a couple, that changes, but
right.
Boston is as hot as they've been all year right now. And you're kind of flirting with like, there would be nothing more deflating going to the playoffs than to literally be leading the conference all year and then potentially give up the number 1 seed here in the last week. I don't think it'll happen, but I didn't think it would get this close either. What do you think, Tim?
It's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot to lose that 1 seed. So I'm not panicking about that. My thought process right now is just kind of that, I don't see the Cavs going 3-7 or 3-5 or anything like that to worry about it. So yeah, obviously it's not as close as I want it to be. I do kind of piggyback more on what Skylar says in the sense that I do think this game meant more to Detroit because Cleveland knows one way or another a worst of the 2 seed in the East. And it's going to be a very hard worst to hit at this point in the year, where Detroit is right now fighting for a shot at home court advantage. They're fighting for a shot at first round home court advantage.
Yeah.
They're fighting for the possibility they could play Cleveland in round 2.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where they're trying to get that situation. And look, I mean, if you're the Pistons too, give them credit. Dude, they've lost to Cleveland 12 times in a row going to tonight.
Yeah,
I'm sure they were sick of it. I'm sure they really wanted. I'm sure JB really wanted that because he hadn't beat his old team yet.
Yeah,
they just wanted it more than Cleveland tonight, man.
No, for sure. Well, we'll put a bow on this game. We do have one more segment before we preview Sunday, and that is I posed it to you all before the show. Made sure you're okay with me bringing this up. Do the Cavs have a Darius Garland problem? And I ask that for a couple of reasons. In January, we were saying he was their best player of the month of January. He was awesome. He was averaging 25 a game, highly effective, all that kind of stuff. Well, since like the beginning of February, and these stats do not include tonight because I'm going off of cleaningtheglass.com. They don't update instantly. Yeah. But so the last 18 games coming into tonight, Darius Garland has, third or fourth guy on the bench level numbers. One of my favorite stats for offensive production is effective field goal percentage. If you don't know what that is, it's based on your field goal percentage overall, your field goal percentage for three, and then you get extra credit for threes since those accumulate more points. And usually would be an advantageous stat for someone like Darius Garland who shoots so well from threes. Darius Garland last 18 games, his effective field goal percentage is in the 34 percentile, meaning 66% of the league is more effective than him shooting the basketball. That's 2/3 of the league. And this is supposed to be, our all-star incredible player. And it's pretty consistent. He is just as bad on twos as he is on threes. He's shooting under 32% from three in these last 18, 19 games. And on top of that, it seems like more and more every game, and especially tonight, he is getting hunted defensively as kind of the weak link defensively. And there's been a lot of times this year where he's held up pretty well. I feel like he's not holding up quite as well right now. I don't know if that's the drag of the season. It'll be able to turn around for the playoffs. But Tim, I'm going to go to you first. I'll just repeat the question. Do the Cavs have a Darius Garland problem?
It's hard to say no, strictly because I think the Cavs are catching on to it.
Yeah.
In the sense that in March, he has his lowest usage rating of the month of the season. You talked about, so I'll go through the numbers real quick. Since January, he's had 22 games, and this is between January and February. February and March. February, he was 44, 42, 80%. March, he is 40% from the floor, 32% from three, but he is 95% from the free throw line.
Right.
But like we talked about earlier, why is he not going to the free throw line? Why is he stopping this? True shooting percentage right now, his lowest month going into February was 62%. As you mentioned, his effective field goal. So in January, 64%, season high. February, 56%, not bad. March, 52%. And like I mentioned, his lowest usage rate. So yes, Kevin, there is a trend that the coaching staff is recognizing. He has been great all year. So it's hard for us to be fully critical of him. But right now, the stretch of play they've seen from him basically since the All-Star break has really been concerning. And like you said, his offense means he's got to be on the floor. So when they do go play, let's say they play Indiana in round 2, Tyrese Halliburton's going to be looking everywhere for him. Ben Mathurin, they're going to look for him. Let's say they do play Chicago, like I've joked about for months now in the first round. Josh Giddey's looking for in a half court. So, yes, I do think, Kevin, as much as I'm not freaking out, I think Darius Garland's going to be the reason they get upset in the playoffs by any means. There is definitely something to what you're saying, and I think the Cavaliers are noticing a trend, and that's why you're seeing his usage rate go down further and further as the season goes on.
Skylar, to you, do the Cavs have a Darius Garland problem?
Yes. This is concerning in the sense of, it's obviously recency bias because we're watching this team day in and day out. And like Tim said, he's been fantastic throughout the whole year, except for now. But now is when we need him. And now leading into the playoffs, we need the Darius Garland we saw all year. And teams are just going to get more and more tape on you. They're going to get more and more smart to what you're doing. And if you're not able to adjust, you don't. They're other teams are gearing up for playoffs. They know what they're going to do. Like you said, Ben Mathurin and Tyrese Halliburton, they're going to find Darius Garland. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are going to find Darius Garland. And that's a problem. That is a problem.
If they somehow make it to the finals, who Shea Gilgeous-Alexander looking for?
Exactly. So it's definitely it's a concern, a big one, because if you're not producing offensively and you're a defensive traffic cone, what are we supposed to do? Because he's a huge part of this team and we need him. So, but we can't have no offense and poor defense on the floor.
Go ahead.
One more thing I just want to make sure I point out to kind of just further our point here. His worst offensive rating by month was the first month of the year at 116. He's at a 108 in March.
Yeah. And I thought the point Skylar is making is right on. Darius, probably more than anyone on this Cavs roster, has to be very good offensively to be a contributor, right? Because he's probably more than anyone on the roster going to get hunted defensively. And he's not the worst defender in the world, but because of his size, and how, short and slight he is, a lot of people are going to look to take advantage of that. And as you said perfectly, Skylar, if his offense is dipping to below league average, it becomes really hard to kind of continue to try and lean on him at the expense of, what you may lose defensively having somebody else on the roster. If Jared Allen isn't having a good game offensively, you can 100% still play him. Evan Mobley, same thing. Go on down the roster, Dean Wade, same thing. Sam Merrill, if he's not shooting the ball, he still can contribute in other ways and hold up defensively. But Darius Garland has to be above average to elite offensively to get the most out of this team and the most out of his contribution. So as you said, I think it's sort of recency biased. I mean, you're talking about 18 games. That's a quarter of the season, right? I mean, the last 18 games, 19 games now, is where we're getting all this data from. And, a quarter of the season, that's not the smallest sample size. If we were talking about 2 or 3 games, yeah, that's a small sample size. Yeah. But Tim's talking about the whole month of March. The stats I was reading go back to February 8th, I think. So, it's something to be concerned, have some concern for there, but there's 2 good silver linings, right? One, Darius Garland is a very good player who can turn this around. That's the number one thing. The number 2 thing is the Cavs have a very good roster that can try and compensate as much as you'd hate to see, reducing Garland's minutes in the playoffs. If that's what it comes to, they could potentially mix and match other, lineups, go a more defensive lineup, go, with a more, corner 3 shooter and let Mitchell be the primary, creator the majority of the time, or play through Mobley more. So there's options here, and I think good options, but I don't like being recency biased. That's why I've been tracking this for about 3 weeks and waited till tonight to bring it up. So, but first of all, we love Darius, and I think I can speak for you two too. We hope he turns around. We probably think he will. Yes. But it's been enough of a track record. I feel like it was something we had to at least have the conversation for.
Yeah, the fact that it's 18 straight games, I could take 18 off games scattered throughout the year. 18 straight is where it becomes concerning.
100%. Go ahead, Tim.
So who's having their highest usage rate in the month of March? Ty Jerome.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
correlations there for sure.
I'm not going to start the conversation for 2 reasons. One, Ty Jerome didn't play tonight, so we shouldn't have it. And then 2, I got beat up on Reddit yesterday when I said, should Ty Jerome be taking minutes from Darius Garland? So,
oh my God, you put the clips out there. Yeah,
I know. I'm gonna refrain from having that conversation. Now I might have it again, but just not tonight.
Hey, can we real quick? We've got a lively chat tonight. We have Nate and Lemon Lime bringing really good points to the table. So I want to make sure we give shout outs to those guys hanging with us tonight. We definitely appreciate you. I like your Cavs content, so please keep coming back and hanging with us.
Yeah,
Lemon Lime. It's like Sprite is in our chat.
Yeah. Is Grand Hill popping up? Are we getting a Grand Hill? Should we go break out the Filas?
Filas. Wow.
All right. Well, before we wrap this up, let's take a quick look at Sunday. They play the LA Clippers at home. It's another Sunday afternoon game. And for anybody who doesn't remember, they played the Clippers last week. The Clippers controlled the game pretty well. Harden had a good game. Zubac had a huge game inside. I think they have 25 and 20, something like that. What needs to happen? Skylar, I'll start with you. What needs to happen differently than what happened in the Clippers game last week so the Cavs can, take care of business on Sunday?
About everything. I think that Clippers game was just no fun to watch. It was getting out hustled on defense and baited into way too many fouls, way too many, and that's part of James Harden's game. But they got baited into so much more than they needed to. They got out hustled a lot on defense. So I think they just need to kind of welcome the Clippers into, what is it now? The Rock. and show them Cavs basketball, not the first game getting out to LA or getting out to the West Coast, getting off a plane. So I think just being home is going to make a huge difference for this.
Yeah, I would take 24 points from Max Strus again, like you had in the first matchup, but otherwise agree with you that pretty much everything would be different. Tim, what about you? What do you think about the game Sunday?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just kind of finding a way to kind of like slow them down is going to be your biggest spot. So right now, for those who don't know, the Clippers are coming in winning 6 of their last 7, including that Cavs game. So right now they're a team who's playing probably the best they have all year. They obviously have a NBA championship coach who Cleveland's familiar with, especially having Kenny Atkinson being on his staff at one point with the Clippers as well. So it's just kind of the beauty of this matchup is that you're kind of go strength versus strength where they're fully healthy right now. So you're kind of seeing the best Clippers. Cleveland just has to find a way to kind of keep the ball in their hands to get back to what Cleveland does. I think a big frustrating thing about tonight where, like I said earlier, I think Detroit just earned this win. Cleveland didn't share the ball like they normally do. We didn't see the typical Cavs finding the extra pass to get the guy open. You do that in this game, I don't think the Clippers are going to be able to really balance against that. Yeah, they have Kawhi. Yeah, they have all these really good defenders. But at the end of the day, they're throwing Chris Dunn out there for a lot of like big minutes. I think Donovan Mitchell could take advantage of Chris Dunn guarding him, and he's going to have to in this matchup.
For sure. I think those are great points. The only other thing I was going to say, I would like to see a little bit more of DeAndre Hunter and Dean Wade than we did in the first matchup. They combined for only 35 minutes. I'd like to see that closer to 45, maybe more, because those are the two guys that match up with Kawhi, and they're going to be your primary perimeter defenders on guys like Kawhi in the playoffs. So if we're truly tuning up for the playoffs, trying to get a win, put away the number 1 seed, I'd like to see each of those guys get 5 to 8 more minutes of playing time than they did in the first game. And when they did play in the first game, they were pretty effective, both offensively and were better against Kawhi than anybody else was. So, no, but I agree with you guys. It'd be really nice. The Cavs are, have a slight limp into the finish here of the season. It would be nice to just, I don't need them to go 8-0 to close out the year, but just get a couple more wins, start feeling a little bit better. Like, did you guys notice on the last, it was last game. It was against the Spurs. Like Max Strus was mic'd up, and he said, like, we got to start playing better. We're 10 games in the playoffs. Like he's saying that, like, so makes you feel like the team's feeling this too. They can feel that they're just like out of sync and everything, and they're trying to get it back to where they were the majority of the year, going into the playoffs.
Hashtag Cavs culture.
Oh God. All right. Well, with that, we're gonna get out of here. Thank you everyone for joining. Friday nights are usually our most popular podcast, and tonight was the same. So we appreciate everybody hopping in and joining, and everyone who's going to listen after the fact. We thank the good people of Blue Wire for letting us put this on. We thank Donovan Mitchell for making this a game tonight. If I was going to be even more depressed, we do not thank the referees. But otherwise, we do thank all of you listeners and appreciate you continuing to tune in. So with that, for Skylar Webker, for Tim Daniel, I am Kevin Lynch. And as always,
go Cavs.